Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow together. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to I'ma Talk About It for episode 8. Today, we are going to talk about ascension and letting go of fear and doubt. So I really wanted to talk about letting go of fear and doubt because it comes up almost in every single one of my sessions whenever there's a block. And I think it hasn't been normalized yet to talk about feeling fear and feeling doubt in ourselves. And it kind of masquerades in anxiety and panic attacks and, analysis paralysis. It all comes from these emotions that usually stem from fear and doubt. But where did we learn about fear and doubt? That's what I really want to talk about because it's the only way to really begin to make peace with fear and doubt. So to start with fear and doubt, there's a couple ways you can kind of identify if you're dealing with fear and doubt. Like maybe you haven't put a name to it, or maybe you're not quite sure, you think it's something else. So like I was saying, analysis paralysis, as some people like to call it, is a sign of not fully trusting one's decisions, but mostly because it probably came from someone else teaching you to not trust your decisions. It can also come from fear of making the wrong decision or fear of missing out, as people say, FOMO, right? And then there's anxiety. Anxiety can be many things. It can come chemically, it can come from trauma, and it usually has fear mixed in with it as well, depending on the person. For example, my anxiety goes pretty far deep, and it all comes from how I was raised and how, one of my parents used fear as a tactic to get us to do something. So fear is deeply, deeply instilled in my decision-making skills. I mean, I've made peace with it, but it's a constant practice. And then there's, panic attacks, which usually start with a fear of experiencing something or in general overwhelm of something. And it can trigger these responses. So it's really important to have an open space to talk about fear and doubt, especially right now during a pandemic in 2022. We've got monkeypox, racism has always been around, but it's more easily seen because of social media, media in general. And we've got financial issues, we've got the recession, we've got people dealing with, school loans or losing their jobs. And so there's a lot of fear going around, but we're not talking about it, but it's there and it's affecting everybody. And it shows up on social media, it shows up in our personal life. And then we're not quite sure what to do. So instead of coming from a place of knowledge and grounding ourselves with our decision making, we come from a place of reaction, full reaction. Like, I don't have time for this. I don't have room, full reaction instead of making the space to be able to heal and deal with whatever is coming up. And then we can also start to doubt our own decisions. Like, I don't really know what I should do, or doubt the decision making of others, or project onto others that they're not great decision makers either. And so it kind of creates this bubble of fear and reaction and self-doubt and worry, and not having the confidence to show up as an authentic person, or as who you are, as who you want to be, a part of this world, a part of this collective experience. And then at the end of the day, it starts to add on another layer of invisible expectations, like people start reacting and writing people off on social media or in their life. And then there's, I need to act a certain way or if someone's gonna, write me off. And there's higher expectations and higher expectations. And then you hear things like, shoulding is what I like to call it. I should do this. I should do that. I shouldy all day long, right? Or you start to feel obligated to fulfill another person's needs out of fear of not meeting their expectations, your expectations. So where does that really leave us? Like if we continue down this cycle of fear-based living and self-doubt and self-worth, analysis paralysis, panic attacks, where does it leave us? Because if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in other people, then where do we go? What we've essentially done is boxed ourselves in so much that there is no way out of a box if you just capped it, right? But if we start to make room for having these conversations, instead of allowing fear and doubt to run rampant in our lives and have it feel almost debilitating, we can begin to heal everything around us, right? And I just want to tell you a story because sometimes fear can be a really great ally when it's used correctly or when it's heard or received correctly. So I was in Costa Rica, as many of you know, on a very amazing spiritual retreat called Elemental Healing Retreats from Pura Luna. And we were about to go into a temazcal, which is a very spiritual experience where you are encapsulated in this dome. Well, we were more of it in a dome, and they bring in these lava stones that are like the grandmother stones, and you're in there and there's blessings and there's singings, but it's like a spiritual sweat lodge, like rebirthing. And the whole day I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do it. Small spaces are not for me. And I wasn't vocalizing it because I wasn't able to tap into what I was actually feeling because my fear was almost, in a way, debilitating me. And I couldn't see that I didn't actually want to do it. I was fearful, couldn't share it. I was fearful of the small space, I was fearful of letting people down. I was fearful of all of these things and not showing up as everybody else was showing up, and like fearful of being seen as weak. And, I went about my day. I had my blessing. I was cleansed before I went in, and I was sitting in there, and it was almost like a voice that was like, choose, like, what am I feeling right now? And I took that moment as more people are coming in and saying, all of my relations and going to their position within the temazcal, like, I paused, and I hadn't paused all day to truly tap in. And I said, where is this fear coming from? Why am I feeling so fearful, right? And it was in that moment that my fear was actually becoming an ally. It had been running rampant, but then became an ally. And then I began to trust my decision. And my decision was, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in here. You know, like it wasn't my journey. It wasn't for me. And I immediately looked at the person who was running it and was like, I need to get out of here. Like I need to get out of here to like stay true to myself. And so as I was leaving, you know, I put my forehead down to the earth and said all my relations, and I started crying, but I wasn't crying because it was a feeling of, I'm weak, or, I can't do this. It was, I did this. Like, I did this. I worked with my fear instead of allowing it to put me into situations that I didn't want to be in. I worked with it. I overcame it. I made a decision to listen and to not doubt my intuition. And I remember taking a deep breath because it was so hot in there and being so proud of myself. And so I wanted to share this with you as well because fear can have a way of causing chaos if we allow fear and doubt to cause chaos within ourselves. Because even though people say, you know, fear and all these things, they're negative emotions. They're just signals. Like it's called fear, it's called doubt. We've just decided to make them negative. But they can actually be really great allies, right? But we have to insert that moment of acknowledgement for what's going on. And then we can begin to heal. So imagine being in this pandemic right now and feeling so scared of getting sick with COVID or monkeypox or being treated a certain way because of who I am. Imagine if I and everybody else was constantly like, I'm just scared right now. And I'm scared because of blank. Imagine how the world would shift, completely shift, and turn it on its head, right? There was someone the other day who was, you know, wearing Trump gear, shaking their heads at my partner, or shaking their head at my partner. And it's like, imagine, instead of projecting that shame, what if you said, I'm judging you right now because of blank. That would be very difficult to do, right? But imagine if everybody took a moment to state how they're feeling and why they might be feeling that way. And even if they didn't understand how they were feeling that way, if someone told me, I'm really scared and I don't know why, that would be so powerful. I could immediately understand them. Immediately. And they could begin to understand themselves. And it pumps the brake on having to be so reactive all the time, so judgmental and so in each other's faces because we're upset, right? We're shaming each other, knocking each other down, like people can't trust their decisions, there's gaslighting, you see it all of the time. But instead, if we came from a place of love, we can begin to show so much more beauty in the world and highlight each other's strengths for being authentic. Like, I see you, I love you, I know you're scared, let's deal with it, right? Let's deal with it. Because I'm also scared and I'm hurt. And that's usually what comes underneath fear and doubt is hurt. Or fear and doubt of going back to a feeling that you've had once before. Something feels familiar, right? And as I connected more with that moment with the Temescal, it was all going back to my voice and being forgotten about and my own abandonment story. Because when I was younger, I used to lay in bed and I shared a room with my sister, but one of our parents didn't always want us to sleep with the door closed. So my bed faced a really long, dark hallway. And so, being the spiritual person that I am now, I understand that when I was younger, I was experiencing the spiritual things in that house, which my sister and I talk about today, but I didn't know it then. And so I was picking up on all of this stuff, and almost every night I would be crying and screaming because I was so scared. And I didn't know how to articulate my fear other than this raw emotion that usually comes out of children, right? And if I had someone there who knew how to acknowledge that fear or teach me to acknowledge that fear, it wouldn't have manifested itself into abandonment issues, into people pleasing, into not showing up as myself, into staying in difficult situations because there's an expectation of I have to, into the idea of tough love, which I don't agree with, right? If someone was just there acknowledging what I was feeling when I was younger, things could be very different. And that's why we have to work on our fear and our doubt, even as parents, even as birth givers and community members, family members. Because there are people who believe that you can't coddle a child. We have to make them strong, right? You can't do all these things. You have to blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And I was subjected to that. And it caused so much harm. And then I grew up, and luckily I decided on my own to not want to deal with that anymore because I wanted to come from a place of love. I didn't want to repeat the same thing that my parents had taught me, that they had subjected me to. And so this is where the ancestral healing comes in, where we can really start to break the cycles. I don't have to raise my children the same way that I was raised. Maybe if I do my work and my children go to a temescal and maybe they do want to participate, or if they don't, I want them to say no from the beginning, right? And it wasn't that I'm weak because I didn't say no right away, but it took me a while to really get there and question what the hell was going on with myself and realize that I had taken my voice away. Not like my physical voice, but like my symbolic voice, my metaphorical voice. I had taken it away. I had given my power away because I was so scared of fear. I was so scared of trusting my instincts and coming off in a bad way. So I allowed fear to be my identity instead of it being a signal. And as my therapist says, as feelings come up, you say, well, that is interesting. Sitting back in the seat of observance, sitting back and being like, wow, I wonder where the hell that came from. Instead of being like, oh yeah, I'm mad. Right? In that moment, I was scared. I didn't want my voice taken away. I had also been in a marriage where I had willingly let go of my voice. And I was also getting triggered from that. I didn't want to be there. So, as you are going about your life, thinking about moments where you've given away your power or allowed fear and doubt or self-doubt to run rampant in your life, I want you to always return to a place of asking, where did this come from? Write it down if you have to. Say it out loud. Sometimes I have to pull over and be like, where the hell did that come from? Who said that? Right? It sounds kind of funny and ridiculous, but I'm like, I'm not owning that. I didn't do it. Right? My brain just creates based on traumatic experiences. So I didn't do it. And then that immediately gives me the space to be like, okay, where'd it come from? Right? Yeah, I'm having a full ass conversation with myself in the car. But that's the work that I do that allows me to create that safe space for myself. And as you practice this work and as you get better at trusting your intuition and realizing that emotions are just emotions, we create them. Doesn't mean we have to believe them. They can be signals. They can be, as some people refer to them, as gifts or messages. We can learn from them. We don't have to keep them or embody them. Imagine they're like a text message. Fear texted says, hey, you might not want to do that, or you should blah, blah, blah. And then what do if someone sends you a weird ass text message? You maybe delete it. You block them. Or you say, thanks, but you got the wrong number, right? So think of it like that, like in exchange. Like if doubt is like, you're not good enough, you can text them back and say, who the fuck are you? Right? What? Pause. It's ridiculous. So think about it like that. Like, what could you learn from that moment? And ask yourself, where did this come from? Why do I care so much what people think? Why am I so scared of being abandoned? Why am I so scared of using my voice whenever I want to? Why am I so scared of asking for what I want? What do I fear? Because as you do this work and get to know yourself, it's like, it's the most beautiful part of an ascension. An ascension meaning that you start to remove the chains that are holding you down, that have kept you down and stuck in whatever situation you're in. And you can't elevate yourself. You can't be a part of this collective consciousness or experience the 5D that's going on around us. But you can choose to ascend and find a lighter, brighter way, feeling light and whole again by removing those chains and those thoughts that you don't have to identify with. You can fucking block those thoughts just like a text message, right? Or you can learn from them, whichever one helps you fully release, right? Because we also don't want to fully block fear. Fear can help us. But fear and doubt also take up a lot of space. They take up so much energy. They're like succubus, taking everything away, right? Because we hyper-focus on them. And then that becomes our truth. And it consumes us and doesn't allow space for anything else to come in. So we have to learn to observe and let go. Observe and let go. So you can have space for newness, space for gratitude and beauty. You can start to have a kindness and gentleness with yourself as you heal. This is a part of the ancestral healing. Allowing that space and gratitude and beauty to be rippled through time. When we fix our time now, we heal all of the times. Because time, in and of itself, is abstract. And it's not a thing. So essentially, we are all together. And as I mentioned in my post, if you haven't seen it, Ascension is about flying beyond sight, sound, and imagination. So allowing ourselves to come out of this 3D experience and be able to elevate ourselves so we can elevate other people. We don't have to be bogged down by fear and doubt and not believing in ourselves. We can believe in ourselves, and then we can believe in the world around us and the universe around us, and we can heal it together. Because it's all about what we're trying to prioritize. And we should prioritize moving past just the single moment that's in front of you, right? There's so much more than that. We move into existence, a beautiful existence where there is no judgment and there is no angry reactions or sadness. It's just we exist together. We're like this network of beauty and universal energy. But we have to be able to walk through that door. to unchain ourselves, to go through that door, to see ourselves in a different light, to see other people in a different light. So I hope that from this episode, you find a way to reconnect with the way you see fear and doubt or experience fear and doubt. They can be amazing allies, and they can also harm. So we have to be mindful. And again, returning to a place of asking, where did this come from? And then choosing what you want to do next. Because we all have a choice. We don't have to just react because that's the easy thing to do. It's the thinker way of doing things. But how can we intuitively make decisions, wholeheartedly experience decisions for better, not for worse, right? So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I always love speaking to you all. And I hope that every day is filled with so much love and so much gratitude, and that you can learn from your fear and doubt and heal from it. So then we don't project onto the next family line and next lineage our own fears and doubts. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I do want to say that my one-on-one coaching is still open for August. I am taking people on. So if you are ready to ascend to that collective consciousness and be free of fear and doubt, let me know. I am here to support you. I also have a group program that's amazing, and we do a lot of ancestral healing and spiritual work and herbalism and accountability, empowerment. It's the whole package. Come join me. It's fucking phenomenal. You're going to have a really good time. And stay tuned for next week's episode. It's going to be really great. Me and my partner are going to be on talking about embracing our magic. Magic is phenomenal. Spirituality is phenomenal. And we're going to tell you how you can embrace it and what happens when you do. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you for showing up today for yourself and for me, and many, many blessings.